and girls, welcome to another 5-Minute Stories with Miss Ashley. Today I have a story for you that is about the very first Christmas tree, and it goes like this. Once upon a time, there was a tall fir tree, the oldest of its kind and the wisest of its kind. And when we're wise, that means we have the answers to some questions, and we know that we may not have the answers, but we can figure it out as we go through. So this tree was very old and very wise, and she watched over the forest, all the other fir trees and all of the animals that nested in her branches, that nested down in her roots, and all throughout the forest, she kept them safe and she gave them advice when they asked for it. Well, one day she heard a strange sound that she had never heard before, and it was the sound of a child crying like this. And the tree looked down from her great height, and she saw a little girl sitting in the snow crying. And she wondered, well, what kind of creature is this? I've never seen it before. It stands on 2 legs. It has 2 hands with bendy fingers. It must be one of those humans that I've seen before. They come in with their axes and they chop down the trees. I don't really like them, but this one seems quite sad. I wonder how we could help her. And so she whispered to the squirrels, "Squirrels, go down there and see what's wrong with the little human." And so the squirrels, chatter, they climbed down the tree and they approached the little girl carefully and they said, little girl, what's wrong?" And the little girl, shocked that she could understand the squirrels talk, because, oh yes, animals do talk, but they don't always talk to us because they're a little afraid. And she said, "I'm lost and I'm scared and I'm cold and I'm hungry and I want to go home." And they realized that this little girl must have wandered away from her village. And all of the animals wanted to help. So the squirrels got together with the deer and the rabbits and the mice and the owls and all of the different animals. And they said, "What should we do?" And the rabbit said, "Well, we can help feed her. We can give her our carrots." And the squirrel said, "I have nuts. The nuts are really good." And the chipmunk said, "Ooh, how about berries? Berries are very good." And the old fir tree, who was very wise indeed, said, "Oh, I don't know if we should give her the berries. They can't always eat the berries that we eat. But what about some delicious nuts? Nuts are good." So they gave her some nuts. They gave her some carrots. And she was full and happy, but she was so cold. And so the deer gathered around her to warm her up. And the fir tree said, "How are we going to get this little girl back to her village, which is on the other side of the forest?" And none of the animals wanted to take her there because they knew that in that village lived hunters and they didn't want to get too close. So they decided on a new plan. They said, "What if we got them to come to us?" And all of the animals put their heads together, and the tree said, "Oh, I know what to do. I am big and tall, and they will see me from their village. We just need a way to get them to light me up so they can see me." And all of the animals put their heads together and they thought, and they said, "Well, what if we used beautiful red berries to decorate her branches? And we'll make them big and beautiful all up and down the tree. That should attract their attention." And so they gathered all of the berries they could find in the forest and they put them in her branches. Boop, 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 scattering them all around until she looked quite silly indeed. But it wasn't quite bright enough. And so they said, "Well, what if we got some big yellow fruits? That might work." And so they gathered the big yellow fruits in the forest and they decorated the tree with those too. And now she had red little balls and she had big yellow balls. And oh, you could see it. It was so beautiful, but it wasn't bright enough. And so the animals decided, oh, what is the brightest thing in the forest during the winter? Why, it's snow and ice, of course. When the sun shines on the snow and ice, it makes a beautiful, glistening, glittering, bright color. And so all of the animals gathered up as much snow and ice as they could, and they tossed them onto her boughs and onto her branches. They hung the icicles with care, and they worked throughout the time, they hung vines around and around and around, and pretty much anything they could find around the forest that was brightly colored, so that the men in the village could see the tree. And then just as the sun was starting to sink behind the mountains, casting its red and pink and purple hues across the sky, it began to twinkle on all of those icicles and all of the berries and the snow until the tree shone so bright it was a beacon in the forest. And the people in the village were so curious about that bright light that they ventured into the forest and they walked through the trees until they came to that beautiful tree. And there they saw a strange sight indeed. All of the animals of the forest surrounded the tree in a big circle. And in the middle of the circle, next to the tree, was that little girl singing her favorite Christmas songs, waiting for her mommy and her daddy. And that's the end of the story. Our very first Christmas tree was actually a gift from all of the animals and the trees themselves in that forest to help that little girl. Isn't that a wonderful story? It's a little bit made up, and it's a little bit from different legends. The original legend was actually from Germany, and it was about the wise fir tree. There are many different versions that are told all around the world, and that's what makes this story so special, is that it can be shared again and again every holiday season in any capacity, in any part of the world. So I'm so happy to share it with you, my gift to you this holiday season. Happy reading!